everybody, welcome back. Melissa here with Being Cozy Stitching, and yes, it's still on the wall baking, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to check out our previous video, The Party's Over, because yes, vacation is over and now it's time to get back to the workroom and get busy. And what I thought this week we could do to get busy and to help clean up and get everything organized is we're going to start by making trash can fabric. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. We're going to make trash can fabric today. So, what do you need for supplies? Well, you need some tulle, and I like the glittery tulle if you can find it. Or you need some organza, and this organza has kind of a little shimmer to it. You can also find it with a little glitter. Be very careful about sequins and jewels, and remember, you have to sew through this, and if you've got a lot of that stuff on your tulle or your organza or gossamer or whatever, you just need a super lightweight, filmy, see-through kind of fabric. And yeah, be careful because you have to sew through it, so you don't want to have a lot of jewels and things that you can run over with your sewing machine and break a needle. Okay, then you're going to need some pins, and you're going to need an assortment of threads, and they can be anything from variegated to embroidery to metallic to just plain cotton to polyester to polysheen. My rule of thumb is if you've got something you need to use up, this is the perfect project for it. You know those little spools where you just have a little bit left over, but you don't want to throw it away? This is where you get to use that. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put you down to the mat, and I'm going to show you how we make our trash can fabric. By now, I've got you all scared half to death. I'm talking about making trash can fabric. Well, first of all, what the heck is it? And second of all, how hard is it to make it? And third, I don't think there's a third, because it's a great way to use up your scrap pieces and your garbage and your junk. So, this is what we're going to be making today. This is junkyard fabric, and it is the coolest stuff. It can be used in many different applications. You can applique with it. You can insert it into other fabrics to make other projects. You can use it as a standalone fabric. You can use it in clothing. You can use it in quilting. You can use it in home decorative. You could make a pillow out of it. If you can think it, you can use it. Because once you've got it all put together, it's just like any other fabric. You can use it anywhere you can think to use it. So, how do we make this? Well, what you're going to need, and usually I'll start with a fat quarter, because a fat quarter is a very good size to start with. So, you go ahead and you cut yourself a fat quarter of this very filmy, thin, see-through. Mine happens to be glitter tulle, because I like all the little sparklies on there, and because you can really see through it, and man, when the sun catches it, it looks just gorgeous. I like to stick them under pots, potted plants and that kind of stuff, wrap pots with them. It's just a really cool look. But, so you're going to start with a fat quarter of tulle, and can you believe this? I forgot to tell you the most important part of this. You need a bunch of junk. You need a bunch of stuff that you would normally throw away. You need to put all of this into your project. And when I say junk, I don't just mean fabric scraps. I also mean your threads, not paper, but your leftover threads, your bits, your baubles, all kinds of stuff. Garbage, stuff you would normally throw away. That's what we're going to put into this project. I suppose you could put paper in there. It'd be kind of cute. I didn't mean to have that in there. But anyway, yeah. So that's what you have to do. So you might have to save a little bit before you actually get to start this project. But if you've been sewing lately, you're sure to have pieces and parts and bits and all of that good stuff. Now, these are kind of big, and I'm going to try and separate these a little bit here because I want to keep the threads to one side and the fabrics to another, and you're going to see why in just a minute. Even though this is wonky, crooked junk that you're not going to use for anything else, it's perfect for what we work with, but it's still a little big. So what I like to do is come through and make confetti with my rotary cutter. And all you're doing is just moving it around, slicing it up. It does not matter how big, how small. All those little dog ears you clip off of your quilt squares as you're sewing. Save that stuff because you can put that in here. All this stuff. Okay, so I'm thinking that's probably pretty good. Because I don't mind having some long pieces in there. I just don't want them all to be long. But now you can see that I've made my fabric confetti, complete with a piece of plastic. I don't know where that came from, but I'm not worried about it. Okay, so you need to save your scraps. You need to save your scrap threads. And now we're going to take our piece of tulle. We're going to fold it in half. It's really hard for you to see this because it's so filmy. Sorry about that. But, oh, actually, I think I'm going to clear this out of the way. Sure I am. Now it's going to stick. That's okay. We'll get there. Bear with me. We'll get there. All right. So now, like I said, we're going to fold it in half because we need to know where to put all of our fabrics. Right side, wrong side, doesn't matter. I don't know the difference. If you do, and that's great, go ahead and do that. But I don't have a clue. But here's my work field. This is where I want to layer all of my goodies. And I'll start by just taking a handful and just kind of spreading it all over. I don't really care where it goes. And yeah, it might look kind of thick, but I can move it around. And then I might want to put, you know, some thread blobs on here and kind of separate them out because they look really cool once they're stitched, and they look totally different than the blobs that you think that you're going to get. And if you'd stop flipping it around, it'd make it a whole lot easier to get this project done. But that's one of its charms. It's thin, it's wispy, it'll blow around on you. Besides, I needed a do-over. I didn't like that layout anyway. And then just add a few more bits and pieces wherever you think you might want them. Now I'm going to do this one kind of heavy because I want to get rid of all my leftover pieces that I cut up here. So I'm just going to include them all. And if you don't think that you have enough variety in here, don't be afraid to put ribbons in, leftover ribbon pieces. Don't be, if you can sew through it, you can include it. So don't limit yourself. Play with the colors, see what looks good next to each other, see what, you know, just kind of throw it all out there. And if you're missing something, if you think it needs a little more life, a little more oomph, something, don't be afraid to take your spool, open it up, and just unwind some of that on top of there. Give it a little more oomph. And then when you get what you want, you put it down. Okay, so I pretty much like this. It's heavy-handed, but I think when it's finished, it's going to be cuter than all get out. I'm not worried about how this is going to come out. Right now, I just want to put enough on there to cover my tool and make myself a fun piece of fabric. All right, so once I get it laid where I think that I want it, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to lay the other piece of tulle over the top, and I'm going to kind of squish everything down. Now this is going to give me that once over look to see what I've got going on here and to see if I like it. It's very mosaic, and I think that's why I like it so much. Once you have it where you think you're going to like it, you need to put pins into it to secure it. Because if you don't, the minute you pick this up, it's all going to go helter-skelter and fly away on you. You have to be really careful at this point. Everything's loose and scattery, and it's going to go all over the place until you get this piece of tulle sewn all the way around the outside. You have the opportunity to lose your pieces and your parts and your threads and everything else. And at that point, you might be so mad at me that you just sweep it all up off of the floor and throw it into the trash can. And I don't want to see you do that, because you're going to miss out on this really fun project that's going to make us some really cool, useful fabric. So make sure you pin it good. Make sure your pieces and parts are inside. And when you have it all pinned together, you're going to end up with a piece that looks something like this, where it's all pinned up and it's all inside and it's all ready for you to add some stitches to. And this is where you get to be creative yet again. So what's fun about this project is you have multiple opportunities to be creative. So now we've got our garbage scattered around inside of our tulle, and it's pinned down, and the next step is to go over to the sewing machine and add some stitches. Well, now the next step is to come over to the sewing machine now that we've pinned our trash into place between our tulle bag, if you will, because I don't really know what else to call it, so we'll just call it a tulle bag. Tulle bag, get it? Okay, so bad humor. So this is where now you get to use all of your specialty threads. You can use plain solids. You can use embroidery threads that have a little bit of sheen to them. You can use variegated threads. You can use metallic threads. Pretty much whatever you've got left over on a spool that you want to get rid of, that's what you should be using at this point. Set up for the machine, you're going to want to lengthen your stitch to about a 3, and a regular universal size 14 sewing needle. Any foot will do, nothing special, doesn't have to be a walking foot, doesn't have to be, you know, like I said, nothing special. So the very first thing that I would like to have you do then is to go ahead and stitch around the outside of your bag, if you will, because this is going to close it up and keep everything from falling out of the inside of the bag. Now be very careful for your pins. You don't want to run them over, and you don't want to stick them in your skin, because that hurts. Ask me, I know, I'm good at it. So yeah, just be careful where you're stitching. Take your time. The tulle likes to bunch up and gather, so you might want to go a little bit slower. Makes it even worse when you put metallic thread in there. But this gives you a wonderful opportunity to learn how to use metallic threads, because one of the most asked questions that people have is, well, how do you use metallic thread? And, you know, truthfully, the only way to get good at using metallic thread is to use metallic thread, to learn how it's going to behave. This is a forgiving project, because if the thread gets caught, twists, breaks, snaps, whatever, it doesn't really matter for what we're doing. You can just go right over the top of it and keep right on it going. So don't even worry about any of that. Just get to know how your machine behaves with metallic thread. I have to put mine on an extra spool pin up at the top to help feed it so that it doesn't twist up and snap. It still does from time to time, but I don't really worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. And then of course you run out of bobbin thread because you're using up, oh no, not bobbin thread, my metallic broke. So, okay, just go ahead and rethread your machine. This isn't a project where you need to go out and buy specific metallic needles. It isn't a project where you need to put thread lubricant on. Seriously, just relax, enjoy. You saw how easy it was to pick up once it broke. We're going to stitch over this so many times that really it's not going to matter. And that's kind of a good thing, because it looks like today is my day for metallic thread breaks, which that's okay. I don't mind, which tells me I've got something wonky somewhere. So we'll just keep at it. Adjust the thread a different way. See what it takes. The less guides you have to put metallic thread through, usually the better it's going to work for you. It doesn't like to be restrained too much. Imagine that, using a thread that's just like my personality. Alright, so now we're back in the saddle again. We picked it right back up where we left off. No harm, no foul. We're continuing around the outside of our piece of trash can fabric, pulling pins as we need to, because we don't need them at this point anymore. Yes, some of the stuff is going to shift and move as you're stitching. Yes, you might want to pull it apart with your hands and realign it. And then again, maybe you don't. Maybe you like the way the new shifting looks better than the way it was set up before. Don't worry about the outsides. If your sides shift, you're going to cut it down when you're done or when you use it. One of the best tools to use when you're cutting down your fabric are your pinking shears. They leave a really nice edge if you want to leave it raw edged. And if you don't, they help keep everything from fraying and going crazy on you. Just a nice finish, a nice way to end your trash can fabric. So dig them out. I know you've got a pair. Everybody does. And if you inherited sewing supplies from grandma or mom, you're sure to have maybe 2 or 3 pairs. So find those pinking shears, because this is their opportunity to be used. And see, I'm going to move some of that around because I think it's too heavy in one spot and not heavy enough in another. But that's the joy of this. You can shift it as you go, as long as the bag is open. Once the bag is shut, you pretty much have to keep whatever you got. So, yeah, you have a little bit of leeway to move things around. And oh goody, we're almost done. Okay, and then we can show you the next part. Now the next thing that you have to figure out is, how do you want to stitch this together? Do you want to use a grid? Do you want it to be on the diagonal? Do you want it to be squiggly lines? Do you want it to be straight lines? Do you want to use your zigzag? Do you want to use decorative stitches? This is the part where you really get to play and have fun. You can do anything that you would like to do. That is my favorite part about this trash can fabric. If there's a new stitch on your machine you've been dying to try it out on here. It doesn't matter if it doesn't turn out, cover it up with something else. It's not done till you say it's done. All right, so we've got it all the way around. All the way around. Now the next step is to sew it right down the middle, because that's going to secure most of this stuff and keep it from going wiggly piggly. Now here's where you got to decide, are you going straight, are you going on the diagonal? Because if you're going on the diagonal, and I'll try that, what the heck, X marks the spot. Let's do something creative and different. I do a whole lot of the other kind let's just do this. Be careful, pay attention to where your needles are, or your pins, not your needles, sorry. Go ahead and pluck them as you come up to them. Get them out of the project. You might want to put a walking foot on if your machine is having trouble maneuvering all of the junk that's in between the layers. Mine doesn't seem to have a problem with it, so I just go with my regular 1/4 inch foot because it's on there 9 times out of 10 anyway. Use whatever foot you want. If you've got a universal foot, use that one. You know, whatever works the best with your machine and gives you the least aggravation so that you can be creative and get out there and, you know, worry more about the process than the equipment. So whatever it's going to take to make the job easier for you, that's what you should be doing at this point. Because remember, we're here to play today. This is a day where we get to just create. We get to play, create, make something that we're going to use at a future date. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but, you know, we'll have it ready for when we do. Okay, so now you can see that I went right through the middle of that, and it pretty much is holding everything together. I'm going to, like I said earlier, X marks the spot. So I'm going to come through on the other side, and at that point, once I get this side done, then I'm going to go ahead and pull all of my pins so that I don't forget that they might be in there. I don't feel I need them, and if my stuff gets moved around or wadded up, I will pick it apart and try and readjust it through the layers. But pretty much I don't worry about stuff like that. I just go ahead and sew. And whatever it turns out, it turns out. That's kind of the fun in it. It's kind of like doing a marbleized project or something else. Oh, isn't that funny? You guys, I am so bad at this air sewing stuff. I continually run out of stuff and just keep right on going. But, you know, that's part of sewing. We all do it. And you might have to try, if you're using metallic thread, 2 or 3 different ways to feed it through your machine to get it right. Some days it likes one thing, some days it likes another. Never get frustrated with it. It's a learning curve, it's a learning experience. It makes you a better sewer. It gives you a better set of tools to work with. I am so sorry for the sirens going off in the background, folks. No, we're not expecting a tornado. It's the first Wednesday of the month, and when that happens, they test all the whistles. I'm sure they do it in your area too, so no big deal. But yeah, I'm really sorry about that because it's annoying as all get out, and it's hard for you to hear me. So hopefully they'll stop soon, and hopefully I'll talk louder and we'll get to the end of this. Now, how much thread you put into this project or how little thread you put into this project is up to you. You get to decide how much you want to put in. I like to put a lot of thread in. It gives it a lot of stability, and I think it just looks better with a lot of thread in it. And like I said, the tool is already wimpy. So I feel it needs a little more stabilizing with some more thread and what have you. So yeah, mine will have a lot of thread in it. You can do whatever you like. Again, remember, it depends on where and how you're going to use it. You get to decide. Okay, so now, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of the pins because I don't want to sew over them. I don't want to forget they're in there. I don't want to get poked. None of that stuff. And I really don't want a sewed in pin with my end project. And believe me, if it can be done, I will do it. But there you see that I have my little X in there. At least I hope you can see it. If not, it's there. Trust me on that. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is finish up all of my stitching, and you should do the same because we're at the same point now. Go ahead and put all the stitching into this that you want to, and we'll go from there. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so by now you guys have put all of your stitching in your project and you're either excited with it or you think I've completely and totally lost my mind. But either way, you had an interesting afternoon, you tried something different, you got some inspiration that maybe will lead you in a different direction, but just to give you a show of what mine ended up looking like, now that we have all the stitching in there, this is how mine turned out. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to make a great bookmark. I think I'll probably, maybe I won't. I was thinking I might want to cut it down in size a little bit, you know, maybe make it this wide. Yeah, maybe I will. But I'll put a grommet up on the top and I'll hang some really pretty ribbons and maybe attach some beads or charms because you know me. I like lots of trinkets and junk and I save everything. So, hey, maybe a button or two would be cute too. But now you know the basics for making trash can fabric. Oh, and I have a couple, I have another sample of the organza. And this is what the organza looks like. Now the organza is not as sparkly, even though there's kind of a shimmer to the fabric. And I got another one. This one maybe a little bit more because I'm not quite as heavy on the stuff inside of it. But still, yeah, there's a little bit of shimmer, but it's just not like the glitter. Or not, I'm sorry, not the glitter, the tulle. The tulle with glitter on it, it just really sparkles and shimmers. You can see the difference right away. So, you know, there's a place for both of it. Again, it just depends on where you want to use it. Now these, I was looking at these and I thought, oh, these would make perfect placemats. Put a really pretty binding around the outside edge. Put them on your table for New Year's or Christmas or maybe a birthday party. You know, the joy of this is you kept all this stuff from going in the garbage. So pretty much it's garbage anyway. So if somebody slaps their wine on it or spills their spaghetti or spills the au jus from their meat, whatever, you know, gets food all over it, you don't have to feel bad at all because other than a little bit of time, it's mostly garbage and used up stuff. And so if you have to, throw it away. Enjoy the party. Don't worry about spills and messes and all that because it's just garbage. You can throw it away anyway. That's my philosophy. I really hope that you've enjoyed doing this project. I know it's out there and I know some of you are thinking, oh, man, she's just a little bit nuts with this stuff. But you know, you never know when inspiration is gonna hit. And now that we're back in the saddle again from vacation and we're all inspired to do stuff, what better way than to start by cleaning out your trash can and cleaning up your workroom of all these little bits and baubles and putting them together into something pretty, something usable. From this point, I will just stack up my fabric in a bin. And when I come up with that perfect project that I want to use it in, then I can just take it out of the bin and put it into the project. So stay tuned for upcoming videos because you just never know what you're going to see on this channel next. That's what I have for this week. I really hope you had fun digging in your trash can, and I hope it gives you a new eye for using things in a different way and being a little bit more creative and thinking outside of the box. But mostly, I just hope you really had fun playing today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. That's what I have. Bye for now. Happy stitching, everybody. We'll see you soon.